Welcome to Crucial Dialogue, where we discuss pivotal and controversial issues for those that need nurturing and clarity in the faith. Converse with us. Ask any question you want. Meet us online and join the dialogue. This is Crucial Dialogue.
My eyes on the sparrow, flip my diamonds pharaoh, pray for straight and narrow, I can't help but let go, and let God, let go, and let God, all I know, it go hard, now I know, just let go, let go, let God, let go, let God.
Welcome, everybody. This is Crucial Dialogue. I'm Asia.
I'm Dawn.
Yo, it's the one and only. I'm back, baby.
And today we'll be talking about Christian must-haves.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I guess I'll start with kind of like a textbook definition of what a must-have could be. A must-have is defined as something that's like an essential must-have or an essential item. So it sounded more like a tangible thing that we might have or collect, but I think we can open it up to say a person, a place, a thing, an idea, a system, a habit. So when we talk about Christian must-haves, these are the things that we do or put in place or feel like, are essential to our lives and our walk with Christ. I don't know if anyone wants to start.
Okay. No, I secondhand that. I think
Sure.
a must-have is something that's essential, but it's also like it's necessary. Like it's like you have to have it. And we're speaking in the context of a Christian, so these are the things that we're going to be discussing are things that Christians need to have, they need to be doing. And honestly, if you're not doing these must-haves or having these must-haves, then that kind of really shows us that you don't deem them as important. That's another thing too. I think a must-have is something that is important, something that's valuable. So when we think about Christian must-have, we got to keep that in mind. Like what's important, what's valuable, and what's actually needed, what's necessary.
I agree.
Right.
Just to piggyback off what Don said, Christian must-haves is pretty much like a habit. And I would say my Christian must-haves are definitely habits and things that I practice and, like to incorporate in my daily life.
Nice.
So y'all want to kind of go in and talk about what's a must-have? Like what do you think is a must-have, a Christian must-have?
Yeah, Dwight, what's your must-haves?
I mean, as a believer, I think in general or just for me?
I would say you. Like, I want to talk about
you.
Yeah.
Because there could be something that you do that other people don't do, and it could be a great idea.
For sure.
That could be a great idea.
Okay. Well, for me, I guess a Christian, as a believer, a must-have for me is meditation in the morning,
Right.
like before work. I think that's extremely essential. I do believe in terms of a must-have for me, I think making any church type of outing or ministry thing, making any of those, like if we have prayer nights or Bible studies or any meetings, I think those are must-haves because I think those help me in my walk. They help me grow. Things like that. Those are some things that are like necessary to do. That's just some of the things top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay. At the top of mine and at the top of my list, because of people, I'm going to say Christian friendships.
Okay.
Friends that you can talk to about Christ and friendships that are dynamic in a way where you can say, hey, let's go to church or come with me this Wednesday. Or, there's this new campaign we're doing starting January 8th. It's called What on Earth Am I Here For?
Yeah.
And you can kind of talk to people about the things that you hear or the things that you read and bounce them off of them. If you send someone a chat or a text and say, what do you think about this? They're not just ignoring you or you feel like your words fall on deaf ears. So I think that dynamic friendships in a way that you have at least a couple of friends who are Christian, and you can grow in your friendship in that way as well.
Agreed.
It's important.
I agree. I believe that mine would be the friendships as well, like just a circle, you know.
Right.
Prayer definitely in the morning times. It's kind of like my coffee. You know how some people, they have to have their morning tea or coffee. I have to pray, you know, because if I forget or if I'm rushing and I don't pray that morning, I'm like, I'm a little off, you know.
Right.
So I try to make sure, you know, I'm praying in the morning. You know, I pray throughout the day, you know, but for sure, I'm praying in the morning time for sure. Like you said, I would say that circle,
Right.
you know, so I can like, girl, like God really did this
Right.
today, you know, and people
Right.
that really understands, because if I'm talking to somebody and they're like an atheist or they're just an unbeliever, then they won't understand, like, you know, like, girl, you were just lucky. Like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed,
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
So it's those type of friendships that I need, or just family in general, you know? I would also say I have this devotion book that I love reading in the morning time.
Okay.
So if I don't like read my Bible in the morning, I read the word in this devotion book. So it just sets the tone for the day. So
Nice.
I really need that. That's one of my must-haves. And I would also say just church in general. It's one of my must-haves because I found myself like coming to church literally like every Sunday, unless I'm like out of town or something. Even, you know, it's been Sundays where I didn't really feel like coming to church, not gonna lie. And I'm just like, I'm still gonna come, you know, because it's a habit to me. It's more than a habit, but you know, it's a part of my walk. But I also, like I said, I like to do things in a habit. And I know a lot of Christian people say like, oh, don't do church out of a habit. But I argue different. Like, you know, I feel like habits creates discipline, you know, and obedience. And God, you know, he looks for those things in us, you know, in his children. So like I said, with me coming to church all the time, making it a habit, like it keeps me disciplined. So
Absolutely.
that's one of my must-haves for sure.
I was going to say, to kind of piggyback off of what you said, Dwight, the morning meditation is good. I'm not so good. I have to be better about this, about praying in the morning. But I do think that giving your morning to God, just in general, usually starts your day off better. And so I'm really big on podcasts, and I'm really big on the motivational videos. You know, it could be any kind of like speaker. It could be Rick Warren. It could be anyone. But there's tons of videos about Christian motivation.
Yeah.
And so you could just turn it on while you're brushing your teeth or in the shower and listen to a Christian motivational video. If it doesn't have to be super focused where you're like reading. For someone like me, if I wake up just in the nick of time to be out the door, then it's all about listening. So that's kind of how I devote my mornings to God.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is that more like, do you think
Have to be better at it.
do you think that like listening to like a Christian podcast or sermon is a much needed, I guess, must have over just kind of reading it yourself, reading the word yourself?
I do read it myself, and so I was also going to say study time is one of my Christian must-haves. But in the time that I cannot, you know, sit down and focus on like reading something, the audio, you know, is a good option. Even like if you're driving in your car and you have like a Joyce Meyer, or, you know, your pastor or your church has put out, you know, kind of like what are those things called? I forget what they're called, but the audio version, and you can listen to a sermon while you're, you know, driving. Then, so that's part of how I do my morning.
Okay. So you're not substituting it. You just
No,
just adding it. Okay.
not substituting it, but just in the sake of time,
Okay.
playing it, you know, and listening. And I do pray, but it's, you know, it's something I'm working on in the morning.
And I know you said like substituting it. Sometimes, not gonna lie, like it depends on your mood. Well, with me personally, sometimes, you know, and I know that's not right. It's not right, but sometimes I'm not in the mood to hear certain things or read. I'm honest, like I'm being, I guess, lazy. So I would say listening to something helps me like put me back on my square, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because
To get amped up.
yeah, you know, or sometimes like, you know, people always say like, yeah, you need to read your Bible, the physical Bible, which I agree. I feel like I get more when I'm reading the Bible. But I mean,
Yeah,
also,
that's a must-have too.
yes,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Like the physical copy.
Right.
The physical copy is better, but if I'm being lazy, sometimes I'll play that Bible app and I'll let it read it to me.
Okay.
But I mean, like I said, that's no excuse. But like I said, sometimes I get a little, and I'm not saying it's okay, but I think God, he knows, sometimes it's okay to, it's
He knows
okay,
your heart.
just a little bit is better than nothing. Though.
Right.
So,
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I was just curious because I wanted to see what
It's definitely not a replacement for me. It's a side in addition to study time. It's, like the audio.
Okay.
It's just like if you're going to read a book, you can also buy the audio version and you can still digest the information. And some people are actually better at learning auditorily. So,
got you.
it's your learning style
right.
for sure.
Could be contribute to your learning
Got
skills.
you.
The
So,
whites thinking we're out
No,
here being lazy.
That's
Yeah.
not true. That's not true.
Right.
I was just thinking because in the context of a must-have, obviously there's some out there, even believers that don't think going to church is important. Having a physical copy is important. Let alone waking up in the morning and meditating and praying and stuff like that. And so, I just kind of because most I would hear that too. Just listen to podcasts or I just listen to an audiobook and stuff like that. But I think I'll argue that I think I think at the end of the day that the physical copy, reading it, and I think even if you're a better learner, listening just to things that are audible, I just think there's something different about I think waking up early and like having like the physical book and then just like reading it because part of meditation as a must-have is like think about like when the audio, the times that y'all listening to the podcast and audio, like y'all just listen to it. Do y'all ever just like stop it just to hear what they say?
Yeah, I do.
And take notes and everything.
So you do that.
It's my notebook.
Okay, so you'll stop, listen what they say.
Yes, I
Okay.
do. And even with the Bible app, like if I'm reading a chapter, but I'm pressed for time sometimes, and I'm cooking. I know it's like, doing stuff you shouldn't be doing, but it's like I need that, so I'll play the Bible app, like the actual app.
Okay.
And it'll like I guess, audio the chapter to me. Yeah. And so if it's saying something, I'm like, what does that mean? I'll stop it. And then I kind of have like ADHD brain. So I'm like, what does this mean?
Okay.
Because if I don't stop it in that moment, then I'll forget. And then in my sleep, God, he'll be telling me like,
nudging you.
Yeah, for
Okay.
real. So I'll get convicted. Like you were supposed to follow up on that.
Right.
So I have to follow up on like what I'm hearing and everything. So, but I prefer the book for sure. But like I said, any form of word to me
Right.
is just one of my must-haves.
Right. So I was just saying
Okay.
that's a part of my mornings. That's how I fit it in to my mornings, kind of like when I'm on the go. But for sure, having the dedicated study time is also a must-have. To make sure, you get a journal and you can, take your notes and write things down. And also for me, I do have a regular text Bible, but I also have a journaling Bible, which has space in the margins for notes. Mm-hmm. So whenever, you are at church or Bible study or one of your classes, you can highlight and read through and kind of make the notes as you go along to make sure you digest it or give a frame of reference, or an analogy, and you can take those notes as well. So for me, another must-have as far as my Bible is going to be a journaling Bible. Okay. I'm a margin person. I like to write, in the spaces anyway. And so having one with, spaces, and you can add stickers, and if you can draw, then you can do all those kinds of things too to kind of add some illustration, but in making it fun and kind of attractive for you, sure. And making it more like an activity.
Okay.
I think so. That's part of my study time. It helps to have, a journal or a journaling Bible that I can write in. So.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. That's interesting. So like I said, that's the only reason I was asking to try to see, because again, I just think it's different as a whole versus the reading it physically and then just listening to it, because I think many would just listen to it and then
keep moving.
Yeah, just keep moving. I think that's okay, but they can't really retain anything that they have read,
Right.
or really what they listen to. But like when you actually read it and then like you see a word in there and then like you do like a word study on that word, it like, I don't know, maybe that's
Well, you
just
have
me.
to.
Yeah. But I also think, you know, it depends on where you're at in your walk too. So if you're talking to a person that's never reading the Bible, they don't even like reading, you know, regular books. So it's hard to, you know, get a person from doing nothing to like something big, because I feel like reading the Bible, of course, you know, as Christians, we must have it. You know, it's one of my must haves. And we've all agreed that it is a must have for us all. But I think for other people, you know, listening may be, you know, just the baby step for them, and then until they can come into reading it, because the Bible can intimidate you. I used to be intimidated by reading the Bible. I didn't know where to start. I wanted like to know
Nice.
from the beginning to the end, you know. So it took me a long time to get into reading my Bible, like really, really sitting down, reading my Bible, understanding. And I believe it's the version you have too, because my favorite versions are like the King James Version and then the NIV. And especially the NIV, that's the version I have on my phone. Like, it's just clear, you know, it's more understanding, because when you're getting into like, you know, more like, I guess, more serious versions, all of it is serious, but you know, it can be a bit intimidating. And I've even had like family members tell me like, you know, where do I start? And I'm not judging them, because I used to be there, you know. So like I said, it depends on the version, and if you listen, I can handle that. Like, if you're gonna at least listen, let me grow you into your faith, because I was once there. I was once just a listener, and then I had to like jump in, you know, like jump rope.
Got you.
I think also, if you find it intimidating, a good must-have could be a reading plan.
Yes.
Like these little green Post-its that I have are reading plans. So, you know, in my downtime when I'm not reviewing what we went over on Sunday or Wednesday night, and I dip into my reading plan, I could be doing a character study or a Proverbs 31 woman or whatever it is, and I mark it up. Then I know where I am in my own personal study with this thing. So if you're looking at the Bible and thinking, God, it's so many pages, you know, this could be a way for you to start digging in, is to find different factors, different lesson plans, and mark it up yourself and dive in that way.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. You know, I will definitely share that with, you know, people who are looking to start somewhere.
Right.
But I mean, I just feel like starting anywhere is better than
Right.
not starting at all, because I just dived in from the beginning. And I followed up on words I didn't understand. I would like Google words I couldn't pronounce. And it just took off from there. So I think just
That's great.
starting. So, but I was a listener in the beginning, just
Right.
to be honest.
Okay. I ain't tripping on that.
The man of the hour.
Right? Welcome in.
Welcome.
My apologies.
Welcome. You made it.
Came in just a wee bit late, but I'm glad to be here. My name is Joshua Thornton, new
Good to
to
have
this
you.
whole podcast thing, but I am very much excited. Yeah, fill me in on what y'all talking about.
So we're talking about like our Christian must-have, some things that as a believer you must have.
She basically been saying that is better to listen to it.
I am not saying that, but I mean, I'm speaking for the people that's like, I'm speaking for the little people, the big people, and the in-between people.
Also for the people who are illiterate, because everybody can't read and write, and so you got to start somewhere.
Right.
It could be in the beginning of your journey with coming from something else and trying to grow at the very beginning.
Right. So I guess first, my question to you, Josh, is what are some of your Christian must-haves? And then if you can remember, also I want to ask you about how do you feel about people starting their journey out listening and then, you know, jumping into reading the Bible?
Okay. Let's see. Are we talking tangible here, or are we talking like a must-have, or as in like mentally, or
We opened up the must-haves to anything. It could be a habit, it could be a system, it could be a book, it could be, you know, friendships. We covered friendships, having Christian friends.
right?
Morning meditation, having your actual Bible. I talked about Bible journaling. So anything.
Okay. Well, besides obviously a Bible. There we go. All right. Besides obviously a Bible, I would say to build up a good network of individuals to hold you accountable. this is, I mean, a good accountability partner won't just really be there to guide you through, you know, like some of life's typical things like working out and motivation and whatnot, but a good Christian accountability partner will talk to you. They'll be there for you, not just hold you accountable, but they'll understand, you know, some of the ups and downs that us, I guess, newbie Christians go through, and it'll make that process of sanctification that much more
Absolutely.
simple and tolerable, because it was times early on, like a few years back when I was first walking with Christ, that I kind of felt alone, and it was just that much harder. But then I started to, you know, talk more with my brother and more people of the faith, and then I got into this church and met more individuals, more brothers and sisters, and it was a lot easier.
Awesome.
Let's see, another thing would be discipline, just to develop that discipline in the word, that discipline in you know, spending time with God. I remember in there was this book we were reading, The Pursuit of Holiness. Yeah. It talked about the yearning for the love of God, and you know that also ties in. That'll also tie into like your want to seek after Him with all your heart. You know, so that's also another thing. Because if you don't have that, you're gonna try to justify yourself in not being disciplined. You know, it will be like, oh, maybe today I'll just chill out. I read my Bible yesterday. You know, I don't have to do it today because I'm a little tired. I don't really feel like it. And then more and more that'll snowball into maybe even backsliding.
Right.
So.
Right.
We said Bible, discipline, accountability partner.
It's kind of like going to the gym. Like everyone knows they need to work out. You know, you don't feel like it, but when you go, you feel so much better, and you never regret it. You never leave the gym going, dang, I wish I didn't do that. You know, and you need to stay on it, because that one day turns into a week, turns into 2 weeks, turns into a year.
There's been times where I even went to, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
There's been times where I went to the gym and I felt as if I didn't get enough work in, you know, and sometimes I feel like that when I'm reading my word or praying. It's like, oh, dang, I don't feel as if I prayed enough or, you know, talked to God enough or did enough, you know, but you'll never leave thinking that, oh, I'm good. You know, it'll either be, you know, I'm more or less, I don't want to say satisfied, but, I'm more so like happy with where, I am with God and where He's, you know, guiding me, and it's a lot like the gym. Like, oh, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't think I'm doing too much, but that soreness, that you know, it's a good pain. It's a good type
growth.
Of good growth.
Yeah, I pretty like going back off what you said, like about discipline. I pretty much said something about that earlier. Like even when you do feel like I'm good, I don't feel like going to church today, or you know, I'm tired or I'm sick, you know, I feel like having that discipline to keep going every day, even if you don't feel like it, you don't want to do it, it helps keep you in the habit of going to church. Because, you know, if you're sick or you're like, I'm in a bad mood, somebody really made me mad today, you know, I'm not going. But if you go to church, then the word may just be for you. You're like, I'm glad I did come, you know, and that keeps you going. It keeps you in a habit of like staying on track. So I think just discipline, keep going even when you don't feel like going. Just go.
I always feel better when I go to church, and when I leave, I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity. So yeah,
for sure. What was the second question?
The second question was, how do you feel about people listening to the Bible from my standpoint, it's like new beginners, and before they actually pick up the physical copy and read it. Because me and Dunn, we were talking about how sometimes if we're in a hurry or we just feel like let me listen today instead of actually reading the Bible. We may listen to she was saying she listens to like podcasts and stuff, which I will sometimes too, or sometimes I'll let the Bible app like read it to me, or like talk it to me.
Well,
Or like an audiobook.
Yeah.
Like something that's of that type of niche, for lack of a better term. It's good to get, anything is better than nothing. I first started off with what?
No, not you. She was looking at me because you said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty much telling Dwight, like, something is better than nothing, like if I'm dead broke, if I had $5, it's better if I had no dollars. You know
That's
what I'm
100
saying?
pennies, like yes,
Right, so
500 pennies.
and
500.
I agree wholeheartedly with you saying like the word is good, but I
Right.
think it's levels, honestly. It's levels to everything. And I guess I just understand more because like I was that person, you couldn't have told me to just go read your Bible,
Sounded like a daunting.
like, and I would read verses like, but it was step by step. I had to like, I had to grow.
Right.
And so,
But you have to practice with the actual thing.
I had to practice.
So my thing is, I think if we, I know we're going down a rabbit hole, but like, I'm gonna tie this to another must-have.
Okay, yeah.
But when we make it a precedent or a point to just to do strictly the podcast, I'm not saying just y'all, but you're saying in general, because most Christians don't, if they have a Bible or not, they don't read the physical one. They're listening. It's audible. I think that sets a precedent, and it carries over to, well, I don't have to go to church in person. I can just listen to it. But then when I think of the earlier church, I mean, they had scrolls, they had the physical thing. That's back during biblical times. And I think even if you want to go to the 90s, the 80s, 70s, 60s, like they did when podcasters really were in the thing and audible books were in the thing, they had the book and then they read it, through the book. I think more practice with that, it'll grow. It doesn't, like you said, it all takes time, but I think we should want to start them with the real thing
text
first, because it all goes back to that. Because all that other stuff it's a good source, it's a good tool, but I don't think we should rely on that. I think we should rely on the actual thing, because all that stuff is gonna malfunction, it's gonna die on us, it's gonna just go away. But like the actual word, it will stand.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't think like substituting for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Never substitute.
This is in addition.
In
to
addition.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
reading.
and
It's just for those who are listening. I don't know.
We want to be clear. You
Yeah,
read your
for
Bibles
sure.
and read your Bibles.
Right. Read.
But that,
read it.
But that transition to my thought of, I think a Christian must have, Christians should have a church home. They should have, and I know many Christians feel as if they don't need a church home. They just need to be accountable to one another. Like you said, be disciplined. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily come unless you're not, without a church home. I'm gonna say it like that. My point and reasoning for that is, within a church home, you have a group and a body of leaders. You have a pastor, and when you're in a church home, people know you. So it's like you can't, like even here, like if we haven't seen you in a while, like you gonna get a text, like you gonna get a call.
For sure.
But if you're not in a church home, and if let's say you're just, it's just you and so-and-so, or just you and somebody else, I think y'all can just easily fall off. Same thing with like gym partner. Like we all had that one gym partner. Y'all been consistent a little bit, but then as soon as one of y'all work schedules kind of interfere with it, then it's like, okay, we'll do it again the next day. We'll try again the next day. And then eventually y'all just stop communicating altogether, just about the gym per se. I think the same thing applies here. I think church home is a must-have for every single believer. I don't think you can grow without it. And we know that the church, Ecclesia in the Greek, it means, just the body of believers, the called out ones. So you can have a church, not necessarily a building, but I'm just speaking on like the church home. Like if you're like, for me, like Christian Bible is in my church home. So I'm accountable to people here, and people are accountable to me, meaning like they need to know where I'm at. If I'm not there, I get tons of texts and call from PG, like, where you at? Or, hey, we missed you at this event, stuff like that. So I think that's definitely a Christian must have. And I think if you're a Christian and you're not in a church home, then you're not deeming it as a necessity. That's what we're talking about too. That's kind of how I open up. I said a must have is something that's a necessity. It's a priority. It's needed. It's necessary. So if you're not even part of a church home, in other words, you're saying this isn't necessary when it really is. That's the first time you ever gave me one of those.
I agree. That was really good with the church home, because now that you say that, I feel like I didn't really establish like Christian must-haves until I really got into a church home. I had things that I would do, every day. Of course, like I would pray, I would read my devotion, I would talk about God and go to like God, godly events or whatever with my friends. But it's like thinking about God, talking about God every day, or keeping him on my mind every day. It wasn't like a must-have to me at the time until I really was committed and faithful to like coming to church, like especially like our church. Like you really can't you really can't walk day to day without thinking about God, because this is a Bible-based church, so we really always talking about God, and it's like it's a must-have. So the church home definitely helps develop those must-haves for sure. And
then I was one of those Christians too, I think, where it's like, the other stuff was because I think there's a difference between, again, a must-have, and then the other stuff just being kind of just optional, or just like it's cool to do, but it's not needed. Well, going to Christian concerts, or
I love a good Christian concert.
Yeah, like stuff like that, or maybe there's a community Christian event, stuff like that. And I think those are beneficial. That's ministry, that's fellowship. But I think sometimes people just get complacent, and then they just see, okay, well, I've done that, so that's good enough. When I know you really need to be in a church home, be under leadership, and that's the thing too. Must have is you need to have a pastor. That's a must have too. You got quiet.
Listening.
Oh.
You think we disagree?
Too. I think some people don't understand it, because
I think most Christians
a lot of churches aren't like ours.
A male pastor.
A lot of churches don't assign you to a group or have people who are checking for you. Some people go to church and they feel like they're a small fish in a big sea and that nobody knows them. Or you can, go to a church for years, and if you don't show up for a couple of months, nobody will text you or even notice. You know what I mean? And also with the classes that we have here, make sure that everybody has the same framework of understanding salvation, prayer, the Holy Trinity, things like that. It adds to it, and it builds your strength and your knowledge as a Christian. We have that here at Christian Bible Church, but I feel like understanding that going to church and having a church home might be hard to grasp if you have never been to a church that brings you in and welcomes you like at home.
Yes.
Right?
And even knowing
with a family,
knowing what to look for in a church,
right,
or a church home, like true biblical principles, not really preaching a watered down gospel, and not any false doctrine that may be woven into their preaching, and amongst other things that'll that can kind of fool you in a way that a lot of dead churches do have, unfortunately. And just looking out for these things, or even being privy to some of these things, will really help you in choosing a church. It took my brother and I a minute to find a church, and I'm glad we kind of found this one. It was just up the road, but before that we were going to church from church to church, kind of finding and looking for certain qualities that'll actually like that'll actually show us like, hey, I think this is a pretty good church home, and Christian Bible is that church for it.
That's awesome.
I love to hear it.
Yeah, pull up if you in the area.
Pull up on the key.
Stop by. We'll be here.
There's so many
We'll
churches
welcome
in
you
this
in.
area too. It's so
There
many
are.
like sprinkled like on every corner. It's like
I know.
I
It's
got-
really crazy. No, for real.
There are.
It's really crazy. But that's what I love about our church. Because we do like, all the things that you pointed, and then some. Like most churches don't do that. They have more people, more staff, but yet they don't really do the things that we do. And Christians, I don't know. That's why I said what I said. Man, people really need a pastor. Ephesians 4 talks about how just the necessity of a pastor.
Yes.
It talks about the necessity of a pastor for the edifying and the building up of the saints. So if you're a Christian and you don't even have a pastor, and again, and like I said, in my context, a must-have is something that's necessary. If you don't think a pastor is something that's a must-have, in other words, you're telling me personally that having a pastor is not necessary.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I think people who don't really like prioritize church and stuff like that, they don't understand that though, because once I was there, like I said, I didn't really understand the need to be really committed to a church, because before I joined Christian Bible Church, I would go to other churches, and I pretty much was going to like the same church or whatever, but like Don said, I didn't feel like I was seen. I didn't feel like people knew me, versus when I was back home, my church was super small. It was intimate.
Nice.
Like I'm going after up to my pastor after the church, talking to him, like, yeah, that really fed me, I'm talking to him, so I feel connected, versus like I said, other churches. And here, our church is so connected. The people here are amazing, make you feel like family. So when you're under like a good pastor, and a pastor that's like, explaining to you the necessity and the must have of being under leadership, it makes you think and makes you just understand, because like I said, I just felt like, oh, I'm going to church, I'm doing my part. But I didn't really know you had to be committed to one church. But I do feel,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I believe so.
I understand now, but I do feel like, looking around and knowing what church fits you, because every church is not, suited for, everybody. You need a pastor who, fits, I wouldn't say fits you, because our thoughts are not like the pastor's thought. Well, they shouldn't be. But a pastor that speaks to, what you need. And so it's, like the saying say, different strokes for different folks. I just believe, as long as you go to a church and you eventually find the pastor that you, desire, or that God desires for you, is good enough.
Yeah, having that is because you said you didn't think having a church home was important. How'd you say it?
So I didn't say like I don't think it wasn't important, but I didn't think like being committed to like connected, like being a member.
Yeah.
Because like when I moved here, I had a church home back home, and I still have that church home, but I didn't recognize like, okay, you're fed better when it's just that one church home, but it took a while, it's like Josh said, it took a while for me to find it too. And so I feel like everything is like divine timing, like God puts you where you need to be when you need to be there. So I needed to go to those other churches to be able to see and recognize like, okay, like I'm supposed to be here. So yeah, but now I recognize and I understand, like,
Definitely got to choose one, and definitely choose one in a sense, because I have a friend that I don't think is tied to any church home necessarily, but loves to do ministry, loves to, I guess, go to different churches and help out in ministry if they so need to or whatever. But I think it's extremely important to have just that one solid church that you serve in, that people know you, because that's where accountability comes from. If I'm not a Christian and I don't have a home, I mean, where else you gonna get that accountability from? Mm-hmm. How else you gonna be disciplined? I mean, I think I don't believe in the church hopping. I do think there's you do need to do that in a little bit in the beginning to find out where God is placing you. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you know where God has have you, is telling you to go, and this is the church, that's the pastor. Okay, now you stay there. Mm-hmm. You stay under that leadership. You be obedient. You serve, and from there you grow. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, okay, you gave me 2 today. 2. Come on, we on fire.
I agree.
But yeah, you was gonna say something, Twin? Oh, my fault. I thought.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's extremely important, and I'm always pressing that. And even in our POG, like I'm always, even on those like I don't really see, because there's something about community and fellowship, like that's a must have. We talked about a little bit about that, like that fellowship. Mm-hmm. That is a must have. But you're not really gonna truly get that fellowship unless you're grounded in a church home and you're under leadership, and then even with the accountability, like you gotta allow people to hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You gotta allow them to. And if you're not part of a church home, that lets me know that you're not really into accountability, and that it also kind of gives you the pass to just, once service is over, just get up and leave. Mm-hmm. But that's not really ministry. That's not fellowship.
That's true, right?
Yep.
How do you feel if a person, like, you were attending the church for like 10 plus years, you know, this is where you feel like God placed you, and then you're like, I feel like I want to go somewhere else.
Traitor. Burn him. No, it's funny. It's funny you asked that, because we had because our friend we talked about a little bit earlier. So it was like that person.
Yeah.
And a couple of others. Because let me say, like, so I grew up in this church. Yeah. And I grew up in this ministry. And so, I mean, I'm talking about even under Pastor Clint as when he was the youth pastor. And so there were about a group of us here. And eventually they just all go. They just all left, but I'm still here. And so I always get curious, and I always ask them, okay, why did you leave? You know, and I can never get a solid answer. Yeah. Or if I see like, okay, where are you fellowship now? I'm still looking. I mean, we graduated like 7 years. Still looking.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I think if God legit has said, okay, your time here is up, I want you to go here to do this ministry, to do that, I think you should do that. That's a must have. A must have is to obey God's voice. I totally agree. My problem is when people just leave for the sake of just leaving. And then when you ask them where you attend now, what do you do now? It's none of your business, or I'm still looking. I mean, most people who leave churches, before they leave the church they're at, they already know where they're going to go. So they already been missing a couple of Sundays. You haven't seen them in a while because they're already church hopping and seeing where else God is taking them.
Shopping around.
Yeah, exactly. Shopping around. I think that's my problem. Like you just leaving just to leave, or you leaving because, I don't know, somebody took your parking spot, or Pastor preached too long one Sunday, or you got into it with, come on, I'm on fire. And you got into it with, I don't know, Sister, I'm going to say Sister Shirley. Sister Shirley, if you're looking at this, I'm not talking about you. Shirley is a common name in the church. Everybody has a Sister Shirley. We got like 2 here. So, you know, stuff like that. I think that's what really bothers me.
That bothers you. I mean, I just feel
Irks
like
me.
If I would, irks you. Oh my
really,
goodness, that
it really
is
does.
strong.
Because you missing out. It's like you're leaving, but I always think about like the impact that you can have here in ministry if you were to just stay. Now, I mean,
unless you've developed your leadership in your position here to go and share with another, you know what I mean? It could be a good thing.
It could, yeah. If that's, hey, if the Lord designed it that way, who am I to stop you?
Right.
But my thing is, those who, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that was here. It just left, and there was like no valid reason. It wasn't, oh, God didn't move me, or just I want to try something different.
What if
That's
you-
not a good reason.
What if they are just telling you that? Because I mean,
crazy.
you know,
To leave a church, you've got to have a deep reason, I think. Like, there's no way I would just stop showing up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell somebody.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to have a conversation about it, then I'm going to tell you, like, you know,
And that's
I
real.
left because of
Most
X,
don't
Y,
do
and
that.
Z.
They won't have a conversation. They wouldn't even tell you. They would just stop showing up slowly and slowly.
Stop answering texts. Stop answering calls.
Yeah, and then you just flat out don't see them. That's been a pattern from what I've seen.
I mean, that means
time here.
something is going on.
something
Then I
going
mean,
on.
nobody. Me personally, I'll just speak for me. I
Wait,
don't
with them
think
or the church?
Huh?
With them or the church?
Could be both.
Yeah. I mean, it, you know, like
You're looking for the answer.
yeah, exactly. And you can't, because I feel like, me personally, I don't think right now, I don't think I feel comfortable enough if I were to leave. You know, I'm not leaving. I love here. But if I were to leave, you know, and something happened, or if
I know
it
where
was
you
just
stay.
you do. If it was just like, you know, something, if it was something, and I really feel like, you know, I took it to God, prayed to God, because I would take it to God, and He's like, you know, it's okay to leave if I really feel that.
Sure.
And I feel like it's something that's gonna really rough y'all feathers up in here. I probably wouldn't tell y'all. I'll probably like, I'm not gonna
I
lie.
would.
I'll it
I would.
depends.
I'm gonna say something about it before I leave. I'm gonna let someone know, because also sometimes the things that we feel are misleading. You know, our emotions or the way that we perceive something is wrong, or it could be, oh, they're like that with everybody. You know what I mean? It could be like you taking something personal, or like making it bigger than, or victimizing yourself, or making it bigger than what it is, and that's not it at all.
Right.
So you could need another perspective.
And what I
But
found
I
out
agree,
is,
I
go
agree.
ahead.
No, you're fine. But I was gonna say, because feelings are not facts, you know, and we feel things that's not always true. But I mean, you know, I like to make sure, follow up with other people, like, okay, this person felt this way about that. This person felt that way. I'm not crazy, you know, because sometimes I feel like people just need to see other people step out, you know. So it's like, if I'm gonna, you know, have the courage to say like, okay, yeah, I'm not really, you know, feeling that. I know this is not for me. I'm gonna leave. I'm just speaking for the mass, you know. So they probably left because something happened. You know, it could have been like something
Right.
that they didn't want to speak up on. You know, I know some people just get lazy and they just leave. You know,
Yeah.
but
But it's biblical though. I mean, like, if you have an ought against your brother, you're supposed to work it out. That's Matthew 18. And then as you guys are trying to work it out, if y'all can't reconcile, then you're supposed to bring it in the church. So it all goes back to the church, the importance of having a church. If I'm a Christian and you don't think a must have is you being a church home, you get in these problems, and then you act on your feelings. And like Don said, I mean, a lot of stuff can be resolved if you just really just talk it out. And then you really look back and be like, all right, I was tripping. Like, cause I had those feelings too. Like a couple of years ago, I'm like, man, this church, man, I gotta go. But then the next thing I know, like, I'll see somebody, I'll see like a Sister Shirley, or I'll see a Sister Kathy, and they just smile. I'm like, you know what? I was tripping. Like, I was tripping. This church solid.
All it takes is a
We
smile.
all have our
That's all it
days.
takes. Yeah, we all have our days. That's all it takes. But we shouldn't get to the point where, now even to your point, you've been praying about it, and you feel like the Lord is leading you somewhere else. Man, we'll be praying for you. Like, yeah, go ahead, go wherever God tells you to go to, but still at least share with your pastor.
but what about if you feel like the pastor's gonna get me? I don't want to feel, you know.
Get you how?
I'm just joking, but I'm
No,
saying, yeah, you know, because
That's how most people feel.
How do you, honestly, I mean, as a pastor, you should understand, you know, if I were a pastor, and I would understand, but how do you just go up to your pastor that you've been under his leadership for years, and you're like, you know, God led me somewhere else. You know, genuinely, how do you think he'll feel? Like the next 4 sermons are about to be you, and are about
That
to be
depends on what
about
church you go to. I think that if I were a pastor, I would want feedback. Imagine if you think you're doing, you know, a bang up job, and then, you know, the church has, you know, hundreds of members for so long, and then all of a sudden like 50 or so disappear, and you're looking out to a much smaller crowd. I would be open to feedback. That's just me, who I am as a person. So as a pastor, I would welcome a conversation like that.
Yeah, and I think it would
welcome
hurt. I think it would hurt because it's like, you know, you've been under my leadership this whole entire time, and then now it's like, now you want to go. But I would say, if a pastor truly loves you and truly want to see you grow in the Lord, and you come into him, and you're saying, hey, the Lord has called me somewhere else, then that pastor should respect that, because what that would do is that, if anything, that would point back to his leadership and how he's been leading you, because that means in some way, somehow he's been teaching you how to hear God's voice clearly. And then now you come to him saying, okay, the Lord is telling me I have to go somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, obviously it will hurt, because I mean, you've been doing ministry for years and years and years. I think that's why, again, I said it irks me, because we've been in this together, and then now you leave and you don't give me a reason why.
Yeah.
But I think if you approach a loving pastor, and you're honest with him, it's gonna sting, it's gonna hurt, but he'll respect it. And truth be told, a lot of people that do that, they end up coming back anyway.
Yep. I've heard testimonies like that
They
here.
really come back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our pastor definitely would understand, and like you said, that was really good. It speaks to how he's teaching you to hear God's voice. I like when he's, calling people up to like join and stuff, and he's like, you know the difference between God's voice and the pastor's voice or whatever, and so I think he would understand for sure. But like, not all pastors are like-minded
Receptive.
and receptive. Yeah, a lot of people are not. People want their same group, because with the same group of people, like it's members. It's like like you said, ministry work. And if one person leaves, like if you were to leave Dwight, then who's gonna fill your spot? Now I have to scramble to find somebody to take your spot, or now that's a love gift that's not being paid, or it's just taking money away, and not even just money, it takes away from like the strengths and the needs that we have in the church. So I think all pastors may not be as receptive to that, but I do believe our church will understand, because I always see them rooting people on, and I've heard plenty of testimonies where people were like, I left and I came back. So
Yeah. Leave and come back.
Christopher Reiser says, I like the passion for Minister Dwight.
Hold on. You know what? Let me tell y'all something.
We appreciate that.
Let me tell you something. I appreciate y'all out there. Brother Richard is on it, giving me this feedback.
Yes.
Now you, Brother Chris. That's the fourth time. Let's go.
Encouraging Brother Dwight to speak up and brag about himself, and we appreciate it.
I put some butter on it. Did I say it right?
You did say it right. So
yes.
Butter on it.
Yes.
Before we started, we were telling Dwight that he's awesome and he's amazing, and he should just
and he shines at things like this, and we appreciate that about him. He leads in this way.
He's the man of the hour,
right?
I'm a regular guy. Don't say definitely changed. No, but yeah, that's a must-have. I think did we talk about prayer?
We did
bring that up?
briefly, but not like.
That's a must-have as well.
Okay.
That's definitely a must-have.
And learning how to pray.
Yeah, definitely a must-have. All that is under the umbrella of church. I just keep going back to it, but it's church. You got to have a church home. You got to have fellowship. You got, this is where you learn this stuff.
That's true.
In the church.
You can learn it here. A lot of churches don't have that. I learned in, Salvation Alive class, they break down how to pray and teach you the different elements of prayer and what these things mean.
Exactly.
I just now learned that, this summer, there are some people who will never see that, and they go to church and they leave and they don't have the breakdown and what these things mean. And so they don't feel encouraged to do it and to develop a prayer life. But you can learn things like that here at Christian Bible Church Salvation Alive class.
And then I want to add this in there too. We were talking about I was talking about having must-haves, having a pastor.
Yeah.
But also just other leaders in general. Because in the church, I believe we're called to not just submit to the pastor, but submit to the other leaders, like in the church. So, like for example, like in like Hebrews 13, it says submit to those who submit to the leaders, like submit to those who give you the word. And it's like, leaders, that obviously that's plural. It's not just the obviously there's a text specifically for the pastor, something like obey your leaders, but I believe I need to look back at that text, but I do believe that the other leaders that's even under Pastor White, I think the body needs to submit to. I think that's a must-have to have them too, because the pastor's not available for every single thing. So that's why he kind of delegates other responsibilities. That's why you have the elders. That's why you have deacons. That's why you have other ministers and preachers, and you have other like just ministry leaders that you are called to submit to. So like I find like people, man, forget submit to the pastor. Like they don't even submit to them. Like just little stuff. Like that doesn't mean like you gotta worship them, but you just respect their ministry, you respect their leadership, and you respect that pastor put them in place to do what they're doing. And I think that's a must-have too. You got to have that too. All goes back to having a church home. If you don't have a church home, you're in trouble.
If you don't have a church home, join our church
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, join us.
It's only so much wisdom that you can take from YouTube or from listening to podcasts.
That's my point.
Like going to classes and Salvation Alive and these other things have really fed into me for over the past I'd say 10 months. I've been fed a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and I'm nothing but thankful for that. And if I didn't have the church, I'd probably only have like a fraction of that wisdom.
Amen.
I agree. Oh my goodness. Just thinking about how much I've learned, like,
Yes.
oh yeah. I've learned so much from this church. And I do love, like you said, submitting to the pastor and how other people are in place. Because me seeing how other people are like, so dedicated, and they're committed, and it's just like, wow, it's a system,
Yep.
And so I appreciate that system. I've been really blessed to join the church and like learn so many things. The people here are great, like I said earlier.
They're awesome.
It's just everything, like with the classes and just the the weekend gatherings that we do. It's all about just building up. So if you don't have a church home, you are missing out on those things,
Right.
If you are feeling like, man, I'm ready to just crash out, it's people.
No, for real. No, seriously.
You have people that's holding you accountable. Like, I can't really, it's little things. I was actually telling my friends the other day, like, you really got to show up and show out for God every day with small things. Like, I was in the grocery store and then I ran into 2 people from the church. So I'm like, wow, well, I was on the phone too. So I'm thinking like, I'm glad, I'm graceful all the time anyway, because I'm a graceful person. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm glad I wasn't like, rowdy or doing something I had no business doing. I was just doing regular things. We stopped, we had a conversation, and we talked about, meeting up, having, like Christian gatherings. So it's just good. But if I wouldn't have been in this church home, I wouldn't have, had that fellowship, had those people. I learned things from people here.
Right.
So much stuff. Like y'all pick my brain, and I like to pick y'all's brains, and just, having a good group of people, family for real.
Good.
And also watching the leadership and then getting to know the leadership will help you to understand and kind of build your confidence in your leadership. Like, what areas do you shine in? Like, the things that you like to do outside of, the church. Maybe you are a nurse, or maybe you play football, or maybe whatever it is, whatever passion that you have, watching people in leadership positions will help you to understand how to bring that passion and do that for God. And so it'll help you to, build your confidence and watch how they walk, watch how they talk, watch how they carry the conversations, and get to know those people as well, and their testimony and how they came to that point also really helps you in your process as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And I want to say this too, like the must-haves that we said, it's not for whatever reason, these aren't must-have or like priorities to you. It's not a salvation issue. But if these aren't important, then I kind of question it. I kind of question if you are born again. But I think that's what it goes back to too. I mean, if you're born again, I mean, everything that you guys have mentioned, I mean, you would see these as a priority. You see these as a must-have. And that's another thing too. When we talk about must-haves, I don't think we brought it up, but like when you gotta have something, like you would do whatever it takes to get it. And you would push things to the side. Like even if it's working, or for me, I love to play basketball as a hobby or play games or whatever the case may be. Like I'll push that to the side because like I know I gotta have this. Like this is most important. So I think it's not a salvation thing, but Okay, but like that goes back to, okay, am I really born again? Because if you're born again for real, man, like, and that's not to say it's not gonna be hard. I mean, it's not gonna be easy, because it's not. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be challenging to kind of put down the things that we love to do and we want to do. But these are must-haves that we have to have, and if you're born again, I think you'll
be more willing to make that sacrifice.
You will be more willing. That great word, more willing, more willing.
And I
Won't
think
be
that
easy.
just go back
Be
to,
willing.
like you said, having a church home, because you really have to be around like-minded people. If you're at home every day watching YouTube, you don't have any drive or any get up about yourself to
Get out there.
to do it. So you really have to be in God's house. Even when I just walk in here, I just feel so much like reverence and just I'm in God's house. I know God's here. No pastor is here. No, we're here. But I just feel like I'm at God's house, So I have to sit up straight. I have to, talk right,
Exactly.
walk right. So I said it to say, if you're not in the church home, you really don't know. You can have a must-have, but like your must-have really won't be your must-have.
Right.
It may just be a have. Like I can do this, but
You
a
gotta have
must-have is you understand it and you're established in it once you're around. Like
If you're born again, absolutely. It's a lifestyle, servitude, serving people, giving out food, praying for people, developing your leadership, bringing your passion to God and contributing to the world, and letting people see God through you. It's all a lifestyle. It all takes work. It all takes reading. It all takes prayer. It takes fellowship. It takes church. It takes the Bible. It takes all of these things. So these must-haves, and when you incorporate them, will build you into a stronger and more dynamic Christian. And then someone will look at you and go, wow, how are you like this? Where did it come from? And it's things like this that you go, it's everything. It's a lifestyle. So it starts with these things.
And what you mentioned,
people.
Asia, was the experience. Like there's a different level of experience when you come in person versus online. I mean, even to driving up, this is me personally, even driving up, you walking in, you see the greeters greeting you. Ain't nobody greeting you at home on the couch. Nobody
Right.
Nobody greeting you. Nobody holding no door open for you.
That's
Nobody's
true.
giving you a pamphlet. Nobody's escorting you to
Right.
a certain seat. Sister Angelica be singing amazingly. I mean, she even sounds amazing even online. But I mean, you can't really hear it for real. Like you can't really.
It's different.
You can't see the emotions of the people. Can't see how it feels. That's why Pastor used to plead and used to press, just coming to church in person. And even when we do prayer nights and prayer nights and stuff like Friday night prayers. We do it online, but we do it in person as well. He always presses the in person because something about doing it in person. It has to be a must-have to do everything. For a believer, for a Christian, to do God's business in person, it should be a must-have. Like in person. Has to be in person. Gotta be in person. It gotta be in person. That's how the early church did it. That's how the apostles did it. Everything was in person. And then even when it couldn't be in person, like there was times, I think I wish PG was here. But when Paul was in prison and he was writing these letters to Timothy and Titus, he will always end it with, he says, like throughout the whole book, he would give them motivation, inspiration. He would teach them, give them doctrine, theology, stuff like that. But then in the end, he would be like, I long to see you though. Like I long to see you. Like Paul knew it was something about just seeing them. He knew it was something about doing ministry in person. He was still doing ministry in chains in prison, but it was something about doing it alongside your fellow brother, your fellow sister. You can't do that on the couch with no clothes on.
I didn't know they're on the couch with no clothes on.
Because I've done that before. You ain't
Bedside Baptist.
you ain't put on no clothes.
We still
on.
love
You're
you.
at home.
That's true.
Yeah, but you
trying
come
to
to
hold
church, you
clothes.
see everybody look nice, everybody's smelling good,
Right.
everybody's smiling. Welcome to the
Right.
house of love. Like,
Yeah.
you're missing out.
It is an experience.
And if you can do
Ministries.
it, if you can dress up and smell nice to go on a date and to go out on the weekends, to do all the other things that we do, you can definitely do those things for God.
It's a must-have.
To do ministry in person is a
Right.
must-have. Must-have.
Right.
All right. Any other topics?
And then,
I think we're good.
yeah, I think we definitely touched on everything. I mean, and even, I mean, I don't think we talked about it, but like, loving your neighbor. I mean, just loving. That's a must-have that Christians need to develop Fruits of the Spirit is a must
That's
have.
true.
I mean, we can really go down. We could be here all day, really just talking about a must have. But we can end on takeaways. My main takeaway is that every believer's must have should be to do ministry for the Lord in person. Everything should be in person, should be intentional. You should have a church home. I mean, that's how you're going to grow. Everything we talked about is all under the umbrella of having a church home, being under leadership, being under a pastor, so they can truly hold you accountable. If you don't have that, you can essentially do whatever you want. And I know there's other believers that say, well, I got the Bible, I got the word, that's it. You got the greatest thing ever. But I mean, even the people in the church, I mean, in the Bible, they had leaders. They had the apostles teaching them. Like, so, I mean, you can't, this idea, you can't, that you're just fine with just the Bible without a church. No, you need the word. You need to do ministry in person. That's a must have. All these things that we're doing can be done in a sense, online or away from in person, but it has to be done in person, I think, to be effective.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I am.
I think my takeaway is pretty much developing and first, getting a church home to develop Christian must-haves. Because like I said, before I was actually committed, and I would say in my adult life when I was, out on my own, because as a child, I've always had a, church home and stuff like that. But in my big adult life, the best thing was for me was to have a solid church home.
Yeah.
And that's when I really recognized and developed my Christian must-haves. And it just helps you. You're able to, have things and have tools in your bag to sprinkle on somebody else. Mm-hmm. So if you encounter somebody that's having a bad day, with me having YouTube or Audibles or, devotion books, I'm able to, encourage them and stuff like that. But like I said, of course, with scripture and things like that. But I didn't feel, equipped enough to do that until I got really fed at my church home and stuff like that. I can always give you an encouraging message, but it's different when it comes straight from the Bible and straight from God's word. So
yeah, my takeaway is going to be that you have to make it a priority to figure out what your priorities are. So these things are not just going to fall into your lap. You can say it's a must-have. It could be something that, is kind of lower on the priority list, but you have to make that a priority sometimes to sit down and say, what do I absolutely need? What can kind of, take the back seat? But what do I absolutely need so I can start putting those things into practice and committing myself and being disciplined so that I can develop myself further in Christ?
Okay. Well, I guess my takeaway would be to develop discipline, not just within the word, but within your life with God. What the main thing that I've learned in these 21 years of life is that if you want something, you are going to do any and everything to go after it or get it done. I'm experiencing that right now with not just with the word, but with exercise, and because that's one thing that I'm very passionate about. So I just want to learn as much as I can from it, and hopefully one day I can use it to spread the word or use it as a way to parlay it into some sort of evangelism or some some sort of gospel. So it's just developing a discipline within your life, with prayer, with seeking discipleship. That's one thing that I'm getting to know, and just developing that until it becomes a habit that's really just unshakable, and so that you can be used for what God has for you, for the Lord's will. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, folks. Well, that is all. Again, this is Crucial Dialogue, and we thank you for joining in to our Christian Must-Have. See you next time.
Thank you.
This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Make sure you never miss a show by going to our website, powerhouseoflove.org, our YouTube and Facebook channel, or the Google and Apple Podcasts. Hope you tune in next time.